I want to now switch to our next speaker, Randy Entz. Randy does zoning with the city, and there's a lot of zoning issues that are always involved with the Edmond Neighborhood Alliance. We're constantly looking at that and things like that and have input on that. And if Randy is ready, I'd like him to go ahead and begin his presentation.
I am. Thank you very much. I am going to share my screen here. Hopefully you're seeing a presentation now. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. As you said, I'm Randy Entz. I'm the Director of Planning for the City of Edmond. I want to thank you all for letting me participate today. I'm here to speak about zoning in Edmond and some of the development trends we are seeing. But before I do that, anytime I talk about Edmond, I'd like to give a little bit of a snapshot of where we are as a city. For those of you who may not know, Edmond is 88 square miles in its corporate boundaries. We have almost 100,000 people here. Should cross that mark fairly quickly. One of the interesting stats to me when I learned it was we have somewhere between 40 and 45,000 jobs in Edmond. So we're no longer a small town, and we're no longer just a bedroom community of Oklahoma City. We're a true mid-sized city, and it's growing. So last year we added 617 new single-family homes, and that's a much higher than our 10-year average of about 500 homes a year. So we're not only growing still, we're growing at a faster rate than typical. It's also worth noting, and Larry kind of alluded to it, but 40% of those homes last year were built on the east side of I-35. Historically, that's an area that saw little development, and it's something we'll come back to later and talk in more detail about. So now let's talk about zoning. So by the numbers, there are on average 27 requests to amend or change the zoning on property in Edmond per year. 92% of those requests are approved. It's a kind of a common misperception that zoning is set in stone when actually change is pretty constant as the city grows and market conditions change. One other interesting note is that the split between straight zoning and PUDs, planned unit developments. Straight zoning being the existing zoning categories adopted by the city of Edmond, and then PUDs being custom zoning designed site by site. That split probably signals something. I'm not sure whether it's that the zoning code is showing its age and not accounting for current development trends, or that current design standards are not nuanced enough to provide for the quality of development we desire, or some other combination of things. So real brief, let's take a very basic look of how the development process works in Edmond and how a site goes from undeveloped to developed. Hopefully it starts with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is the long-range vision adopted by the city for how it wants to grow. It's a lot more static than zoning. In other words, amendments to the comp plan should be rare, and it should require a lot of effort on the applicant's part. In order for an applicant to change the comp plan, they need to demonstrate that there has been a major change in conditions in the area in question since the adoption of the plan. And that would be something like utilities being extended to that area, a major road project that may have happened that improved access to the area or changed the character of the area, or even something like the school system announcing they've decided to locate a new school on a site, and that will likely drive other development in the surrounding area. Barring that, it's difficult to justify plan changes. The next step is to get the zoning lined up to allow the use for the site. The zoning should align with the comp plan. If it doesn't, then it's probably not appropriate there. Zoning changes require city council approval. Zoning does two things. It states that the uses that are allowed, so doctor's office versus restaurant, or single family residential versus industrial. It also states somewhat how the site should develop. So it establishes the setbacks, the building height restrictions, how much parking is required, how much landscaping will be required. Sometimes it limits building materials. It also dictates how big or how many signs are allowed, so things of that nature. So those two steps are part of getting the entitlements for a site, meaning what can legally develop there. This is an important step. It lets the city know what's going to happen there and the residents around there. But also for the applicant, it allows them to get financing lined up and the property acquired and begin expending funds on engineering and building design plans. Which takes us to the next step, which is site plan approval for commercial projects or plat approval for residential. This approval involves the applicant showing how the site is going to be developed, where the utilities will be, how the buildings will be located on the site, how the drives and parking will tie onto the street system, building materials, building elevations, and at a minimum, planning commission approval is needed for site plans and plats. The next step is to finally get to the building permit and occupancy permits, which is the process of actually meeting the building and fire codes and letting construction begin. This is all part of the process where the details are given. So there may not be information at the zoning stage about the specifics on the building. And at the site plan stage, it's probably not the point to talk about what use is going to be there. That's already been established long ago in the project. And this process may take several years to get through. That leaves PUDs. We talked a little bit about them, planned unit developments. As I said, they're a custom zoning district for a particular site. And it straddles the line between uses and design details. Sometimes an applicant will limit uses because that's more appropriate in the context of the area in which the site is located. For instance, only allowing offices next to residential and prohibiting commercial. Sometimes a PUD is used to change setbacks and promote only certain building materials or change other typical standards based on the location of the area or site conditions. Like straight zoning, PUDs are approved by the city council, and it's worth noting they do not expire. Once approved, they are the zoning for that property unless another application is made to change the zoning there. I mentioned the comp plan. It is available to the public on the city's website. It's in map form with links to the text. So if you click on a site, say the pink area that's sort of highlighted there in blue, it'll let you know in this case that the plan category is suburban commercial. Then if you click on the document link, it brings up the page from the plan. I know you can't read that probably, but that describes suburban commercial in detail and provides information on what zoning districts would be appropriate there. In a similar fashion for zoning, there's a map on the city's website showing how every parcel is currently zoned. If you click on one, it will tell you the district. In this case, the pink area is D1, restricted commercial. And then you can click on the link, excuse me, which links to the zoning ordinance and will tell you what uses are allowed in that D1 zoning district. So let's look at development trends here. And there's going to be a little bit of overlap, and you'll probably understand why with Janet's. Downtown has seen a resurgence with many new businesses, several restaurants, retail stores, including a new local bookstore, which is wonderful. The brewery that Janet mentioned, the food hall, the rail yard. In addition to that, starting last fall, businesses started outdoor dining called streeteries, and several new public art pieces were installed. All these things are making downtown a vibrant district, something that's very unique to Edmond. This is Edmond's heart, is the way we view it. Another trend we're seeing more of is mixed use projects, meaning instead of just residential or just commercial business, the site is a mix of uses. So Park 17, which Janet mentioned, is a great example of that. There's 17 residential units, over ground floor retail, which includes the chicken restaurant, the pastry shop, and coming soon there will be a spa located in there on the ground floor as well. On the right is the Ice House District, currently under construction at Santa Fe Drive, just north of Edmond Road. This too will be a mix of different restaurants and services sharing common space and creating kind of a district unto itself on the west side of the tracks. Definitely another trend we are seeing is new housing products coming into the market. This is really a national trend, but we're seeing it here as well, of people wanting different options for housing depending on where they are in their stage of life. The Lark, just west of downtown, will be a cottage or park neighborhood where private homes will be open to common green space, reducing the yard that the private owner has to keep up. Its market is empty nesters and young professionals that don't have kids or the time or desire to mow the yard. I fall into that category, and would like to be in a more walkable and urban style of living. Nationally speaking, only 40% of homes still have kids under the age of 18 in them. So 60% of homes don't. So that's the market they're trying to appeal to there. A similar product has been in Edmond for the last 5 years or so, and that's the cottage townhomes at the porches at Arbor Creek, and those are the ones on the right. Once again, smaller unit, much smaller yard. In this case, with shared walls, almost like a row house. Keep in mind the early numbers I gave about the 500 plus single family homes a year. So traditional homes with a yard and neighborhood is still being built. There's just also other options coming into the market as well. Which brings us to another major trend, which is the development of East Edmond. Now, when I say East Edmond, let me get a drink. I mean the area east of the red dashed line in this map. Generally, it's the 49 square miles, including the I-35 corridor in the east. We are currently in the middle of a planning process to assess potential development patterns in the eastern part of Edmond. We're experiencing a lot of growth there due to utilities being extended to the area and just the general growth pressure the city is seeing overall. A little bit about East Edmond. So almost 80% of East Edmond is undeveloped or large lot rural that could be developed in the future. That's 80% of 49 square miles is a lot of land. In 2018, 9,000 people lived in East Edmond. In 2050, using a conservative growth trend, the population will likely be over 34,000. That's an increase of 24,000 people. So planning for that area is imperative, and that is why we're going through this process. The study, as Larry mentioned, looks at different land use and patterns or scenarios. We're doing 5 different ones, and then we'll basically do a cost benefit analysis on each. So as we create the land use plan for the area, we have a comparison data for which to make the choices of what land use would be best there. The first one is what we refer to as a no change scenario. And that's essentially that if we didn't change any zoning or approve any plats from here on out, what could be developed there with the current entitlements. This is really a baseline scenario, just so we know where we're starting from. The next one is a low density scenario. It's very low density development, 2+ acre lots, very rural in nature. Another one is recent trends, and that's kind of the suburban density starting to spill into the area with the mix of rural included there. We're going to take the Edmond Plan 2018 and see it fully realized in the computer anyway, and what kind of impacts it has. And then the last one is what we're referring to as villages. So that's, we're proposing with that scenario is like little concentrations of development that could, and commercial activity in certain nodes in the area, maybe 3 or 4 throughout the area. It's unlikely that one of these scenarios will be the choice that is made by the public at the very end, but pieces of them will find their way into the preferred scenario that will become the land use plan for East Edmond. It's around a 16-month process. We're about midway through. Their next big chance for public input and review of stuff is May. There will be a series of meetings held then. Here's the website. I do encourage you to go look at the website, see what materials are there, and sign up for updates if you're interested. With that, I thank you for letting me participate today. There's my contact information there. If you ever have any questions, definitely about anything you heard today or about planning in Edmond, please feel free to reach out to me. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Reese.